Hey friends, before we begin this interview, which I recorded yesterday, and of course a lot happened today, I think we're all reeling from this Supreme Court announcement that they're not going to take the Texas case. Michelle Malkin writing, illegal aliens, refugees, foreigners, and criminals all have no problem gaining standing in court, but American workers, American voters, and American states, good luck with that. So the Supreme Court says Texas has no standing and they're not going to hear the case. And people like Rosanna Arquette, Hollywood actress and enemy of the Republic, are asking for the 126 names, ostensibly, of the representatives on the Republican side who said they supported the Texas lawsuit. These people are so insane, friends. It's all changing so fast, friends. In fact, I was listening to Mike Adams' situation update today, and no one, not Mike Adams, no one thought the Supreme Court was going to do what they just did. Nobody saw this coming, and Mike Adams even predicted that not only would they hear the case, they would probably kick it back to Congress because they don't want to be responsible for what's coming when they announce that Trump won. Well, he was right on one account. They're scared to death, and they don't want to touch this case. It makes me wonder at what point in human history did we lose the Republic? Because clearly the Republic was lost long before November 3rd and 4th. But as they say, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. We still have that executive order signed September 12th, 2018 by President Donald Trump. He knows what happened. He knows there was foreign interference in this election and domestic interference by domestic traitors. He knows that Dominion is completely corrupt. And he and people at the Pentagon and people in the military know that Joe Biden is wholly corrupt and in the pocket of the Chinese and is a clear and present national security threat and can never be allowed to be president. So again, it's not over till it's over, but I think it's about to get a lot uglier than any of us wanted. Okay, friends, before we begin this interview with Canadian patriot Amina Motala, just a quick word about this interview's sponsor. Did you know that up to 90% of your skin is made of collagen? And after 20 years, this essential ingredient decreases its natural production in your body 10% every decade. That's why those who increase their collagen intake report experiencing younger-looking skin and a youthful glow. It restores and strengthens skin, hair, nails, teeth, muscles, joints, and even gut health. So I decided to take Ageless Multi-Collagen, and the results have been fantastic. Get yourself a bag of Ageless Multi-Collagen today while it's still 51% off. And as an added bonus, if you order today, you'll get free shipping, free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free e-report on the 14 foods for amazing skin, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to healthwithsgt.com or click the link in the description below this interview and invest in your health by getting Ageless Multi-Collagen today. Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sean from SGT Report here. It's very great to have you guys on. Thanks for finding us. We really appreciate your support. Patriots from around the world are coming together because we all feel it. It's a multi-pronged attack against humanity. And I don't even know where to begin with this one. We're all concerned about the COVID vaccine. Show me your papers, please. Will they make it mandatory? I think it's very dangerous. But there's even more to worry about than that. How about an attempted coup in the United States? I have a patriot from Canada on the line. Her name is Amina Motala. Her website, at least the website she partners with, is standupamericaus.org. Amina, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Sean. It's a real pleasure to be here on your show. As you know, I told you earlier, I've been watching you and following you. Your work is quite fantastic, and it's just great to be here. Just a correction, I do some work for standupamerica.org, standupamericaus.org, also justiceforcanada.ca, and that would be the website here in Canada.
Okay, very good. And I know you work with General Paul Vallely?
Yeah, General Paul Vallely. He is a 2-star major general in the U.S., and we've been corresponding with him back and forth, helping him, informing him what's going on with our situation here in Canada.
All right. Look, I know that you work with Norman Traversy, and he filed a private prosecution against Justin Trudeau. I want to get details on that in a minute. But first, let's just frame up who your prime minister is. I've played this soundbite many times before, but it warrants reminding people who don't know. This man is not a man of the people. This man is essentially the hand of the Queen. Here he is being sworn in on November 4th, 2015.
I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors. So help me God. I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as a member of Her Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will, in all things to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated of in Council. Generally, in all things, I shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for Her Majesty, so help me God.
Do you find it a little bit strange that this man who's supposed to be the people's politician, who's supposed to represent the people, do you find it a little bit strange that when he was sworn in, he swore his dying allegiance and his utmost secrecy to the Queen and her Privy Council? By the way, on that Privy Council sits somebody by the name of, I think, Lord Moloch Brown. There's some very nefarious people that sit on that Privy Council that Justin Trudeau just swore his allegiance to. Do you find that a little troubling?
I do. Why is he pledging his allegiance to the Queen and not to us? Where are the people here? This is our country. And I find that a little bit disturbing, as I think he also has to say to her that everything is reported to her and only her. So, what does that mean? And why do the people of Canada not question this? Why do we not ask these questions? And that concerns me. We are, the Queen, the monarchy, and I have to wonder, as far as what I'm learning is that Canada is a common law. In common law, this is a country that is actually a corporation, and I think there's a lot of that knowledge being spread around now that a lot of these countries are corporations, and it's a service corporation. So what does that mean? And who is he? He's pledging allegiance to a monarchy, to a queen. And what does that mean with this corporation, and who are we in this? It's time we start learning what this all means and how it's structured, because it has relevance in what they can tell us what to do.
That's right. Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all part of the Commonwealth, all falling under the umbrella of the Crown Corporation, and Justin Trudeau is nothing more than a CEO of that particular branch of the corporation, in my view. I want to show you something else that I think is very troubling. This is happening all over the world, not just in Canada. Canadian Health Ministry exploring immunity passports, vaccine tracking, and surveillance. What troubles you the most right now? Maybe we should talk about Norman's prosecution, his lawsuit against Justin Trudeau. Do you want to tell me what troubles you most about what's happening in Canada right now?
I guess the fact that our government is not even in session, like there is nothing running right now, and it hasn't since September, and everything seems to be lining up to, and Justin Trudeau was accused of the WE scandals and his family. Suddenly the government is shut down. We have no access. It's disturbing to know that these things are happening and we have no say. The COVID, the pandemic, that is another thing. There's so much misinformation and disinformation going on. There's so much divide going on amongst Canadians and worldwide. And, what's disturbing is that, I've talked to members of Parliament in the Conservative Party, and they're warning me that we could be going under a dictatorship. I see politicians like Randy Hillier from Kingston speaking out against the COVID pandemic and lockdowns and what it's doing in the destruction of our country. It's destructing our country with no science-based knowledge behind a lot of this. And this concerns me. Our prime minister, who's, quarantined, seems that way at his cottage at Rideau Hall. And we seldom hear from him, and when we do, it sounds more like orders, being told to us. And the recent one is even just yesterday, I learned about the Chinese troops. There's Chinese troops that are training in Petawawa for tactical warfare. And I guess, they don't have good training for that in their country. But why would Trudeau allow that to happen in our, these are communist countries? What's going on? And who can we talk to? Who can we answer to answer these questions? Christian Freeland, she's, seems to be taking on a role as a prime minister. She seems to be leading the way on these issues. Just again, recently I heard her talking about our money, and that, there's many Canadians that have perhaps a good amount of money in their bank accounts because they're not spending it due to COVID. So why not, we take your money and we can find something to do with it. And I mean, I'm saying that very in layman terms, but that was the gist of how she was speaking to Canadians, and almost speaking to us like we were kindergarten children, It's disturbing. It's just disturbing overall in what I'm seeing. And I have great concerns. And I feel that many Canadians have rose-colored glasses on and are unable to see this, and still think we're in this great country, and and doing their patriotic duty by wearing a mask and obeying commands and orders. Norman just recently went into Costco, and he never wears a mask anywhere he goes. And I have to say, he was a fireman. He does have polyps on his lungs. He has a hard time breathing if he were to wear a mask, and he has a medical exemption. So he's been going to Costco quite regularly, and they've been letting him through. But yesterday, I guess it was, he went and they refused him for the first time. So he wasn't allowed to go into Costco. And I thought, wow, I think this is just going to become more strict. They're going to lock down even more. And it concerns me. It really does. Norman is a gentleman who's, like you mentioned earlier, Norman Traversy, for anyone who doesn't know, he did a private prosecution against Justin Trudeau for the WE scandal crimes and financial crimes. He was, one of the other points was SNC Lavalin. It's another large scandal here in Canada. And there are some very concerning things around that. And the Workmen's Compensation Board, he discovered millions of dollars being transferred into accounts that are unaccountable for. And, it poses a lot of questions in so many ways. And so, this is the movement that Norman had started, and I had discovered him. And together, with an interview I did with him, it went viral. So a lot of Canadians started to rise up and become more conscious of this situation and started supporting us. And July 1st, we had a march, and we had thousands of Canadians come and join us in that march and support us. So it's been quite a journey, and, we keep moving forward. So what can I say, Sean? It is what it is. You have a lot going on in America, in your country, and we're watching it. Canadians watch it thinking that all the troubles are over there. But, we're family, and that's how I see it. And working with the general, this is how we are. We see each other as family. We need each other, and we're all in a situation. It's North America it's in a dire situation.
Well, I agree with that. It's really the whole world, and these globalists have us surrounded essentially. And we're in a war. I keep telling people we're in a war in this country because there's an attempted coup. They're trying to prevent Donald Trump from being sworn in again when he clearly got far and away more votes than sleepy, creepy Joe Biden. And the problem is, you mentioned the Chinese in Canada. Joe Biden is in the pocket of the Chinese. It's just a fact. The mainstream media in this country won't report that, but it's true. We're going to be in the exact same situation you guys are in if Joe Biden becomes president. He will sell this nation out to globalism and to China and to whoever the highest bidder is for his profit, just like I believe Justin Trudeau is doing, probably at the behest of the Queen. Now,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I think that if Trump wins, not if, when Trump wins, I feel that Trudeau will call an election. And I feel that Joe Biden and any of these people will be here to help and support him. They're headed this way because we don't have a Trump, and we need Canadians to rise up. We need Canadians to understand this is a coup. There is something going on here that you need to wake up to, because if you don't, they are headed here. This is the country. They're going to end up here and try to do it from here. This is how I see it anyway. I have great concerns of that. I want Trump to win. I know he'll win, but we need Canadians to rise up if we want him to help us, and they have to see that he is there to do that, to help. How far and how deep does this go with politicians? I just don't see Trump as a politician. I see him as a businessman that came in and stepped in and took on a role that is not like a typical puppet politician. I just see it very differently. And the media here in Canada is very compartmentalized. It's very difficult to, if you want to look for things and search for things, to take it further and deeper. It's not as easy here. So they tend to just follow and listen and hear what's being brought to them, and they go along with that. They comply very easily, actually. So it's time to question this and look into it further and get into the independent media. Very important. And this is where people like myself, who's a smaller independent media person, and you are connecting. You see, this networking that we're doing is really important. It's a great thing. So thank you for that, too.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure. And I used to have a larger platform, but YouTube booted me off on October 15th without warning or cause. But they did that to many other channels as well that very same day, October 15th. And now we see more of it happening on the back of this election fraud. YouTube doesn't want the truth about the stolen election being reported to the American people. So they're now saying you can't report on anything but the official election story. So YouTube, Google, Facebook, Twitter, they're all in collusion with this attempted coup. And in my view, there's many people that work for these corporations that should probably be tried for treason, or certainly sedition. But let me circle back. You mentioned the Chinese influence in Canada. We have the same thing here. Eric Swalwell, he's a Democrat politician in the States. He's ensnared in a Chinese spy scandal. Evidently, he was sleeping with a Chinese spy for years who helped him get elected. Dianne Feinstein, her chauffeur, is a Chinese spy. I mean, these people are up to their eyeballs. And then we have Governor Kemp in Georgia, who refuses to do a fair count of the legal ballots. And people like Lynn Wood not only suspect, but have alleged, openly said, that it's because Governor Kemp has probably taken tons of money from either Dominion or China or both. So we have huge problems in this country too, and Trump is trying to fight these people because our country is literally at war. Now, it's not a shooting war, thank God, yet, but make no mistake about it. Our country is at war with the deep state. Now, Amina, I'm sure you saw this. Justin Trudeau, during his live stream video conference with the United Nations 2 months ago, in which he talks about essentially Klaus Schwab's Great Reset. He says the coronavirus offers a great opportunity for a reset. I've been making the point to people, Amina, that reset is completely anti-human. And under Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum Great Reset, people will no longer own property. All right, it just gets more nefarious and insidious from there. But when he got caught and people called him out, he had to defend himself, and he said this.
I think we're in a time of anxiety where people are looking for reasons for things that are happening to them, that the difficult moments we're in. It's nice to be able to try and find someone to blame, something to point to, something to get mad at. I think we're seeing a lot of people fall prey to disinformation, and if conservative MPs and others want to start talking about conspiracy theories, well, that's their choice. I'm going to stay focused on helping Canadians get through this, on learning lessons from this pandemic, and making sure that the world we leave to our kids is even better than the world we inherited from our parents.
What a criminal. You know, that's the same nonsense that they would say about conspiracy theorists who came up with World Trade Center 7 questions and 9/11, right? The world's a scary place where unexplainable things happen. So that's why people come up with conspiracy theories. It's to make themselves feel better, Amina. What an absolute criminal.
Yeah, I agree. It it is criminality, and to project, it's projection, right? You're putting back on what they're doing actually to us and calling it conspiracy theories, and that whole word of conspiracy theories, I'm just so sick of it. It's absolutely disheartening and um disgusting. Like, I don't even know anymore, like, and to see people following for this is what's really concerning. It really is, because they just blatantly lie one after another. Just, oh, well, let's just fix it with another lie. It's without a blink of an eye. So I have to say, I'm good friends with his half brother, Kyle Kemper, and he's been advocating so much for humanity and for the right reasons and the right things. And he was in an article with the National Post front page yesterday. Very proud of him. And he was written up as an anti-vaxxer who gently criticized his brother, but with an affectionate criticism. And it takes a lot for him to have to stand up for his own reasoning and rationality of all of this, and to go against what his family believes in. And it's a very difficult thing what he's done, but he's doing it. And I really take my hat off to Kyle Kemper. He's also in the blockchain space, so good for him. It's a tough road, and it's really a time that we have to rise up for what we feel is important. And that could mean that we go against our own family members. And sadly enough, when I say that, it is their agenda to divide and conquer. It's not something I advocate, that we as families and friends should be divided, but this is what's happening. And where this will go, I just don't know in your situation. I heard you the other day talking a little bit about your neighbor and going on how you didn't completely agree on things, and what does that mean? How does that affect the future of our relationships? So we're all touched by this, in the same manner. I think you're cutting out.
Yeah,
Are you still there?
I'm here. Yeah, we're having a little bit of an internet connection problem. I heard most of what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very
Okay.
troubling. As it pertains to my neighbor, how do you educate somebody who's already largely educated on many issues, but is absolutely blind in certain areas? Like, he absolutely trusts Big Pharma. He will happily take the vaccine, and
Yeah.
nothing I can say will help him understand that there are real dangers surrounding the COVID-19 vaccine. Let me do another screen share here just real quickly. I'll show you this now. I'm sure you're hearing this in your own media. Trudeau says Canada to get Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine this month. Canada to receive first Pfizer coronavirus vaccines next week now. That was just 2 days ago. What are they saying in Canada, and do you fear that they're going to try to make it mandatory?
That what you just read seems to be the thread. And, I look at all these things coming at us and I have to question it sometimes. It's part of the PSYOP. And sometimes they plant in our minds what we suspect may happen. And then they write it up or say it to us, what we're already suspecting. It may not be true in that moment, but it may be something that's coming. And that's how they tend to manifest, by collective conscience and putting that into our collective conscience, right? So having said that, I think, here I'm hearing that there is, it is not a mandatory vaccine, but if you want to get on a train or a plane or to go to the hospital or go to, the theater to watch a movie or whatever it is, you are going to need a vaccine card. And that card is going to determine whether you've been vaccinated or not. And so, of course, being in the blockchain space, I thought, okay, well, so there's going to be a tracking to this card, because what if, how can you ensure this card is legit? Well, a tracking that they create, like a digital ID, that sort of thing, where you are ensured that you've had this vaccine, to ensure that there's accountability to that. So that's what I've been hearing and reading, and whether or not that is going to unfold and by year's end, and dates like that, things like that are coming very soon, very quickly. And by September, everyone is to be vaccinated. So, how can they, first of all, even make these statements? It's like saying Joe Biden is the president-elect. Like, you can't make that statement if the votes aren't even counted yet. How can you say that if we don't know scientifically if the vaccine, how are they doing the test accordingly? Are they doing the animal test? I've heard that they've skipped the animal test, and we are now that guinea pig stage of it. So is that true? And there's, you question people, look into this. We have doctors, we have top pathologists talking about against this, who make tests for COVID, speaking out against this. So we can't ignore this. There's too much that you are following a narrative that's correct, that the vaccines are good, and that there's too much other information to just ignore. It's always important to hear all perspectives from everywhere before we make a sound, reasonable, rational decision.
Right.
So, that's what's being told here now. And the latest, so it's not mandatory, and you will need a card. So they're starting to let us know that.
Amina, I'm going to ask you to turn off your video because we're getting so much stuttering here with intermittent internet issues that I think we'll get better connection audio-wise if you can just turn your video off. Can you do that for me?
Perfect. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. One of the things that people don't understand, like my mom, for instance, that I've talked about, and my neighbor who's eager to take the vaccine, they don't know what's in it, and they're not going to read the labels, and they're not going to listen to informed people like me or you who tell them what's in it, like hydrogels and nanotech. Guys, if you haven't heard this interview yet, I couldn't more highly recommend it. Exposed, Operation Warp Speed, the plan to track and trace you. This is on my Bitchute channel. Go find it, will you please? Vaccines are, Mansef Slaoui said, very disturbing things in interviews he's given. Number one, millions of Americans who receive the vaccine will be tracked via an incredibly precise pharmacovigilance surveillance system that will track the vitals and whereabouts of Americans who receive the Warp Speed vaccine. And number two, Google and Oracle have been awarded the defense contract to track and trace Americans who receive the vaccine. Now, if you think this is just conspiracy theory, the PowerPoint that goes along with these claims from my guests, Hope and Tavon, that you see there, the PowerPoint is below this interview. This is all real. Conductive hydrogels, the technology that goes into this mRNA vaccine, and by the way, there has never ever been an mRNA vaccine in the history of the world approved for human use. This is the first. There's plenty of things to be worried about as it pertains to this vaccine, friends. And now even the mainstream media in this country, Amina, is saying the side effects from the vaccine, quote, won't be a walk in the park, end quote. They're already prepping people to accept the fact that when you get jabbed with this thing, you're probably going to get sick or have other side effects, including death. I'm not making that up. That is one of the possible side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. Amina, this is an absolute fight for the future of humanity. It's a fight for our own DNA. mRNA vaccines can alter your DNA. Let me ask you something. If people in Canada wanted to revolt in mass, can you even do that, or have they disarmed all of you? What if they come and they say mandatory vaccines, you line up or you're going to a quarantine camp? Can you guys resist that, or have you already been disarmed?
That's a great question, Sean. I don't know the true, complete answer to that, but I do know as a woman, as a sovereign, free woman born with my human rights, that I can say no, and I will say no, because it goes against my human right, what I put in my body. And I have heard that right now it is not mandatory. So but if I were to be confronted in that situation, I would say no, and I would be very strong about it, and I would not give in. And that is my human right. I hope it doesn't come to that.
Well, I hope it doesn't come to that as well. But really, I had a serious question for you there, and it's not really about resisting this type of tyranny as it pertains to COVID-19. It's just the larger question I have. I've heard that Canada has largely been disarmed, like Australia. Do y'all have a Second Amendment like we do? Do you have a right to bear arms? Do you have militias? Do you have AR-15s? Or have they taken all of the most useful weapons away from the people already?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear the first question fully. The internet was cutting out. Good question. Yeah, they have disarmed us for the more military grade arms. We are allowed certain guns, and unfortunately, I couldn't tell you. I'm not too gun savvy, but we are very much a lot more disarmed than you are as a nation, and that was concerning right away when that happened. So, that goes against our rights, our constitutional rights. But again, I'm learning that we don't even have a constitution here in this country. So common law is something I've been advocating, and hopefully that is a way that we can learn more about the common law, natural law, to help us to speak up for what we stand for and what are our rights. It's a little bit different in the States. You have the amendment, the Second Amendment. We don't have that here. So like I said, it's very concerning here in this country. And I have great concerns as a Canadian. And I'd like other Canadians to, ask the same questions.
Final question for you, and then if there's anything we missed that you want to bring up, please do. But what is the economic situation up where you live, or in Canada in general? Have different areas shut down businesses? For instance, in this country, South Dakota is wide open. Nothing ever got closed down. There's no mask mandate. Florida, wide open. But in many states like Michigan, Minnesota, New York, California, these tyrannical governors have mandated that certain businesses have to be closed while other businesses flourish. And you'll see a trend in this country in those states. Well, the businesses that flourish are corporate boxes, right? Walmart, Costco, Lowe's, Home Depot. They get to flourish, but mom and pop restaurants and bars and health clubs, they all have to shut down. It's absolute tyranny. What are you seeing in Canada?
Well, it's very true what you just said, and it's very similar along the lines that's happening here. The Walmarts, the Costcos, they're all open, they're all thriving, they're all full. There's always a lot of people shopping in these stores. And the small mom and pop stores, the retailers, they are closing. There are some areas that are locked down. Toronto is locked down. We don't have that in Ottawa. They did lock down for a little while and they reopened again. But it's enough that the small business, they're hurting, they're closing down. A lot of the big hotels are closing down or converting into condominiums. The tourism's killed, of course. So when you see that happening, you see unfolding is the closing down of your country. You're destroying the economic, engine of your country. You kill small business. That's significant. And there's a ramification to that as well. This is still what we're going to witness and see, I think, in 2021. So, yeah, it's definitely very similar to the States, but again, not in all areas. Some areas are more open and some areas are more closed. And why is that? Of course, they say it's the COVID numbers, but Sean, I am just, it's like I'm sitting like a sitting duck waiting, and it's not a good feeling.
I think many of us feel that way, at least those that are really awake to the New World Order and to this push for globalism and this push for the Great Reset. And we can see it happening. And then when we identify it and we talk about it, the New York Times says, oh, the Great Reset is a conspiracy theory, even though a week previous they were promoting Klaus Schwab's Great Reset. I mean, it's absolute Orwellian, Fact is
Mm-hmm.
fiction, fiction is fact, truth are lies, war is peace, peace is war. I mean, it's just insane.
Mm-hmm. It is
These are
insane.
insane times. And
Yeah.
just like that clip I played from your puppet, Hand to the Queen, Justin Trudeau, he says, yeah, no. Well, there's nothing to see here. People make up conspiracy theories to make themselves feel better in a world that's just sometimes tough to explain as they sell out our republic in this country
Mm-hmm.
and I guess your Commonwealth. Unfortunately, you guys have always been subjects of the Queen, but I don't think y'all knew it. I think people are
Mm-hmm.
starting to wake up in droves in Canada, or at least I hope they do. But I mean, it might be too late. It's been said, Amina, if
Mm-hmm.
the United States falls, the whole world falls.
Exactly. I know. And that's why I think it's important, like reaching out to yourself, or I've reached out to Sarah Westall, just other Americans. We need to connect. We need to grow together and expand our thoughts. And I'm just hoping that there are Canadians listening that are learn. Just if you're just learning, keep following these sorts of independent medias and educate yourself. It's important because they're not going to educate you. And it usually, if the herd of humanity is moving in one direction, as we know from past and historical data, the events that have occurred that have gone against humanity, well, just look around you. Who and what numbers are moving, and ask yourself, is that in the right direction? Are you being led by the right people? So, God help us all.
God help us all indeed. We can help ourselves to the extent that we're able, but when so many of the people, our elected leaders, are traitors or in the pocket of China, it becomes very, very difficult, which is why Mike Adams in his situation updates, most recently Mike Adams of Natural News, if you haven't been listening to those, Amina, please do.
Mm-hmm.
They're
I will.
incredible, and he's basically saying at this point, a revolution, a shooting war, is
Mm-hmm.
probably inevitable. And
Mm-hmm.
he prays that that doesn't happen. He says the only way to circumvent that probably at this point would be if Biden concedes, which is unlikely to happen given the deep state powers behind him and the mainstream media who, when this all goes down, the mainstream media is going to accuse President Trump of being the one guilty of committing a coup, when in fact it is the deep state, the mainstream media, and big tech that are all aligned and have colluded in this attempted coup to prevent this president from getting 4 more years and thereby ending the Republic of the United States. So indeed, God help us all. Amina, if there's anything we missed, if there's a topic you want to discuss, shout it out now. In lieu of that, definitely give us the websites, will you? How people can find you?
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. Thank you. And thank you very much for having me on the show. I would have loved to have Norman Traversy join us, but maybe that could be another show, or you
Sure.
can come on my show for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so definitely, reach out to justiceforcanada.ca. You can see more of what Norman and I are doing and what we've done and our whole movement up here in Canada. That would be one. And also we are working with General Paul Vallely in the United States, and his website is standupamericaus.org, and we are covering some articles for Canada Today on his website there, and we are his investigation team. So those are 2 sites. You can find me on Amina M on YouTube as well, and Bitchute and Twitter. So thank you, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for coming on. Guys, the website is justiceforcanada.ca. Our guest has been Amina Motala. Thanks, Amina.
Thank you.
All right, and friends, thanks so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate you. A shout out to our Subscribe Stars. That's Real SGT Report on subscribestar.com. Thank you so much, friends, and to the members at sgtreport.tv. Those are the 2 avenues for revenue we have left after we've been terminated by YouTube, terminated by Patreon, terminated by everybody, even MailChimp. MailChimp wanted to prevent me from being able to reach my email list of... Guys, it just never stops. The tyranny, the fascism, this war against humanity, it's never been more clear, more evident, and that's why I've been saying we are literally at war. Our nation, the United States, right now, is at war. This is World War III. World War I and II were bullets, mines, and bombs. This is all cyber stuff. This is traitors working against the Constitution. This is big tech, the mainstream media, and demonic Democrats, and yes, some demonic Republicans too, people like John Kerry, who are eager to sell us out to this great reset. right? People like Paul Ryan, who won't say anything on behalf of the president. People like Governor Kemp in Georgia, who refuses to count the legal votes. Friends, this nation is being sold out from under us. So is Canada. Indeed, as Amina said, God help us. And friends, for real news, please visit us directly at sgtreport.com, the antidote to corporate propaganda and Mockingbird mainstream media lies 24/7. God bless you all, God bless the Republic, and God bless President Donald J. Trump. Bye-bye.